You won't believe what happened the day a powerful millionaire CEO disguised himself as a broke cowboy and took his twins along to a blind date that was never supposed to matter this much. I'm telling you right now, this wasn't just another dusty Wild West meet-up story. Something shifted that evening under the fading orange sky, something none of them expected. And if you think you already know how this plays out, trust me, you don't. Because the moment she walked into that old saloon, everything quietly began changing. The kind of change you only notice once it's already too late to turn back. The kind that rewrites people, not just situations or relationships around them. So stay with me, because this one gets deeper the more you listen closely. This is the story of truth, disguise, and a woman who saw everything clearly. And yeah, it all started with a lie that seemed harmless at first. Out on the edge of a dusty frontier town, the CEO arrived dressed like any struggling ranch hand passing through with nothing left to lose. His expensive boots were swapped for worn leather, his tailored suit replaced with faded cotton. Even his posture changed, like he had carried hardship for years instead of success. Beside him walked his twins, a boy and a girl, both watching everything carefully. They had agreed to this strange plan, though neither fully understood their father's intentions. He told them it was a test, a way to find someone genuine in a world full of masks. But deep down, it felt like something more complicated than just a simple experiment. The saloon ahead flickered with lantern light, buzzing with quiet evening chatter. Music played softly, blending with laughter and the clink of glasses across wooden tables. And somewhere inside, the woman they were meeting was already waiting. Now listen, this is where things start getting interesting in ways you wouldn't expect. She wasn't dressed fancy or trying to impress anyone in the room that night. No jewelry sparkling, no dramatic entrance turning heads as she walked in. She just sat there calmly, sipping water like she had all the time. There was something steady about her, something that didn't need attention to exist. The twins noticed it first before their father even fully stepped inside. It wasn't beauty in the obvious way people usually talk about or chase. It was something quieter, like confidence that didn't need to prove itself loudly. And when their father finally saw her, he hesitated for just a second. That hesitation, right there, that's when the story truly began unfolding. He approached her table with a careful smile, playing his role perfectly from the start. He spoke like a man who had lost everything and was just trying again. His voice carried weariness, his words chosen to sound humble and uncertain. The twin sat beside him, watching her reaction more closely than anything else. She looked at him, really looked, like she wasn't just hearing his story. There was no pity in her eyes, and no judgment either, just curiosity. She asked simple questions, but somehow they felt deeper than expected. Not about money, not about success, not even about where he came from. She asked about values, about choices, about what kind of life he believed in. And that's when the CEO realized this wouldn't be as easy as he thought. As the evening went on, the conversation drifted into places he hadn't prepared for. She spoke about honesty like it was something sacred, something you don't bend. She talked about struggle, but not like it made someone weak or broken. To her, struggle was just a mirror that showed who you really were. The twins leaned in, completely drawn into every word she quietly shared. Even the noise of the saloon faded into the background for a while. The CEO found himself forgetting parts of his act without even noticing it. He started responding more truthfully, though still hiding the biggest secret. And she noticed that shift, even if she didn't call it out directly. Because people like her, they see more than what's being said aloud. Then something unexpected happened that none of them saw coming that night. A group of wealthy men entered the saloon, laughing loudly, drawing attention instantly. They recognized the CEO immediately, even through his carefully built disguise. Their expressions changed, confused at first, then almost amused by the situation. One of them approached the table, ready to greet him by his real name. The CEO froze for a split second, realizing the fragile lie could collapse instantly. But before anything could be said, the woman stood up calmly beside him. She stepped slightly forward, her presence suddenly stronger than before. And with a steady voice, she interrupted before the truth could spill out. That moment right there changed everything for everyone at that table. She told the men they had mistaken him for someone else entirely. Her tone wasn't aggressive, but it carried enough certainty to make them hesitate. She didn't look at the CEO for confirmation, she simply held her ground. The men exchanged glances, unsure now, their confidence fading slightly. After an awkward pause, they laughed it off and walked away eventually. The twins looked at her with wide eyes, completely stunned by what just happened. The CEO, though, felt something shift inside him that he couldn't explain yet. No one had ever protected his lie before, especially not someone who saw through it. Because deep down, he knew she understood more than she was letting on. And yet, she chose to stand beside him instead of exposing everything. After the men left, silence filled the space between them for a moment. The CEO finally asked her why she stepped in like that without hesitation. She looked at him with a calm expression, almost like she had expected the question. Then she said something that stayed with him long after that night ended. She said, "I don't know your truth yet, but I know intentions matter more." The twins exchanged glances, clearly trying to understand her deeper meaning. The CEO leaned back slightly, realizing his test had taken an unexpected turn. This wasn't about finding someone impressed by wealth or status anymore. It had become something far more personal, far more real than planned. And for the first time, he felt uncertain about how to move forward. As the night continued, the atmosphere shifted into something quieter and more sincere. The act he had prepared so carefully began slipping away piece by piece. He started asking her questions, genuinely curious about her life and perspective. She answered openly, but never in a way that sought validation or approval. Her confidence wasn't loud, but it was impossible to ignore or dismiss. The twins slowly grew more comfortable, even smiling during parts of the conversation. They weren't just observing anymore, they were connecting with her naturally. And the CEO noticed that, realizing this wasn't just about him anymore. This woman had already reached his children without trying too hard. And that alone carried more weight than anything else that night. Eventually, the truth couldn't stay hidden any longer, no matter how careful he was. He took a deep breath, knowing what came next would change everything again. He revealed who he really was, expecting shock, anger, or even disappointment. But her reaction wasn't anything like he had imagined in his mind before. She didn't seem surprised, not even slightly shaken by the revelation. Instead, she simply nodded, like she had already known all along. The twins looked between them, confused yet somehow not entirely surprised either. Then she said softly, "I was waiting for you to tell me yourself." That sentence hit harder than anything else spoken that entire evening. Because it showed she valued honesty more than any truth he revealed. He asked her why she didn't expose him earlier when she clearly understood everything. She smiled faintly, then explained something that changed his perspective completely. She said people reveal themselves more honestly when they think no one is watching closely. And she wanted to see who he really was beneath all the layers of identity. Not the CEO, not the millionaire, not the powerful figure everyone admired publicly. Just the man who chose to sit across from her and speak from the heart. The twins listened carefully, realizing this wasn't just about their father anymore. It was about understanding people in ways they had never considered before. And in that moment, something genuine formed between all three of them. Something that no amount of wealth could ever create or replace. The night ended without dramatic promises or forced conclusions like most stories have. They stepped outside into the cool desert air, the stars shining quietly above them. There was no rush to decide anything, no pressure to define what comes next. Just a shared understanding that something meaningful had begun that evening. The CEO looked at his twins, seeing a different kind of respect in their eyes. Not for his wealth or success, but for his willingness to be vulnerable. And as they walked away together, he realized this wasn't the end at all. It was the beginning of something far more important than he had expected. Something rooted in truth, not status or carefully constructed appearances. And it all started because one woman chose to see clearly and act differently. So yeah, that's the story of a millionaire who tried to test someone else, but ended up discovering more about himself than he ever planned to. And sometimes, that's how life works when you least expect it to. You go looking for answers outside, and find them somewhere within instead. If this story made you think, or hit you in a way you didn't expect, go ahead and drop your thoughts down in the comments below right now. I read them, and I'd love to know what you think about her choice. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed this kind of storytelling. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss more stories like this. Because trust me, I've got plenty more coming that you won't want to miss.